Well, it looks like DJT saw a big run, but BKKT is seeing something even bigger. But it is a good thing that we talked about DJT this morning, because exactly what we were thinking was going to play out on Patreon ended up actually happening. And we mentioned that at 10 a.m. this morning. So thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. Thank you for being a part of Patreon. If you were, give yourself a big thumbs up, round of applause, pat on the back, because you did a good job if you were following the signals, and something we were talking about here did play out. Now, this isn't a channel where we are going to try to find these crazy moves all the time. We just like to pay attention to momentum, and we find that slowing down in momentum, that weakness in momentum, where these reversals can take place. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look into a lot of technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta, going over to AMC and GME, and then probably going to pop over to some volatility. But first, we got to talk more about DJT. Welcome and thank you for clicking on my video if you're new here, but if you're not new here, thank you so much if you're subscribed and you were paying attention this morning. Even if you're not part of the Patreon, we were talking a lot about DJT, so give yourself a big thumbs up, round of applause, pat on the back, because good job. Sometimes that weakening of momentum can shift around the trend slowly, and we can see a gradual upturn, but sometimes you get a little bit of news that helps you out on some kind of upward push. So what were we paying attention to with DJT? And really, what did we talk about on Patreon at 10 a.m. this morning? Well, we said, where you want to really start looking at these things, does DJT have a major reversal signal on the daily scale? No. So all of this could be in some way, some form of big consolidation. And so we want to see, as it is close to that center line for the possible swing trade, hey, can we use the other course, right? Not the swing trade course. Can we use the technical analysis course where we talk about divergences and all kinds of other things, talk about these indicators? Can we use that to help us get into a position a little bit earlier? So we notice, hey, we're looking for the daily to swing up. So what do we look for? If you've taken the course, congrats, you already know what we're looking for. We're looking for that 2-hour divergence. All right, that 2-hour divergence down here, we can see that you do have a flat one here, right? Pretty damn flat, if not even just a tiny, tiny bit down, but pretty flat. And then that got more significant. And right here, it said, hey, this is go time. This is going to curl up into positive territory, and this is going to be a great trade. But we always know about managing risk. On this channel, we do trade like water. It means that we manage risk. We always give ourselves that 1% chance that we could be wrong, so we pay attention to the signals. The signal that we needed to pay attention to this morning was the 30-minute turning down, and we talked about this live. Obviously, my power is back on, so I'm glad I was able to put out that DJT post, but I would have done it from my phone on Patreon anyway. But we noticed that that did curl down on the 30-minute, and someone during the live chat actually got this question right. When do we manage the trade? Well, that 30-minute did cross, so that means we could see something ugly, but if that turns back around, you might have yourself a double bottom in some way. Now, I want you to look at this, because we have been talking about this recently, how sometimes a higher low is just as good as a divergence. Now, we were kind of leaning towards maybe that cutting this low, taking out some stops. That didn't happen, okay? So what ended up happening was, you see that we have the higher low, just very slightly, but I want you to notice the difference here from the MACD. Now, this isn't necessarily divergence, but this is the MACD giving you an extreme higher low, while the price action is just giving you a slight higher low, and that's something to pay attention to. Now, we notice the same thing for the RSI down here. If we kind of blow this up a little bit to match that MACD, we can see that we had a low, and we have an extremely higher low. So that is something I want to pay attention to, the fact that this almost came down to the bottom, but this was extremely different from the past, and therefore when that did curl up, that right there is where I took my play. I actually did some microstructure to get a contract early, and then I did some more in here, and boom, to the upside. It took off because it got some good news. Sometimes it just works out that way, but that's what we were looking at, and we're just telling you guys straight up. And if you want to learn these things, the course is on sale right now. It's 90% off until November 31st. If you weren't part of Patreon and you just took the course, you could see all of this price action and know exactly what was the most probable thing to happen when this did confirm. It's a very good trade setup. I want to talk about one thing on the 2-hour, which is this is a great 2-hour move. You still have room on that RSI to go higher. We'll see if that continues. One thing I noticed when the big moves do happen for DJT, you do see if the 30-minute curls down, that's when you pull back. So if this is going to be a great move, expect that 30-minute chart to just be able to go up and up and up, up and up and up, just like this 2-hour will. If this is going to be some kind of big move, because I'm guessing that took the market makers off guard. Now, my price target for this that I did find was somewhere around $56 for the measured move here. That's taking one with the flag and the other from here. So I have two measured moves, but I don't really want to pay attention to that. I just want to see, is the 30-minute still positive in positive territory, because if that starts to turn down, well, you know what? Actually, even DJT saw this, a divergence at the top, the last time this thing ran like crazy. So now we're going to get into the regular market, and I'm sorry that we had to stop by and say that, but it's just so interesting. We can't ignore it, and we were talking about it. So with the SPY, we're just going to jump right into it, and we see that the upside weekly expected move is 597.33, and we have 574.17. We are not near that yet, right? We're trying to make this move up. Looks like we have some flagging, so maybe we need to pay attention to if we're going to retest that 5 before we actually head down. So something we need to look for are the daily expected moves for tomorrow. That would be 591.52 to the upside, and then we do have 584.78 to the downside. So something we can pay attention to here is, remember, we're still looking for this to form. So I'm glad DJT happened because it made the market more interesting. When you're just kind of waiting around, and then you see a good signal on DJT, you're like, thank God, because I'm bored. But this is great. This is what you're looking for. Still looking for that right over here. If we can form that, that would be a good sign. But maybe we need to go test the 5 real quick before we can go make that and then see what happens with NVIDIA earnings. So what you're looking for in this area, if the 30-minute does turn down on the MACD, that would say the negative trend is going to continue, and you are most likely going to take out this low and make a new one. But a lot of the time on these bigger gap moves, you can move slightly sideways and up to go test that 5-day moving average, and that's where you want to pay attention for resistance to come in. We held at the daily expected move just below it, and then we consolidated. You notice the market got kind of lackluster as DJT started to pop. Very interesting there. So we pay attention to both sides though. So the bearish thing for tomorrow would be, hey, that 30-minute could cross over, and we want to treat that as that could be bad. But if it makes a signal, kind of like DJT did, then maybe that's going to be good. So we'll pay attention to that for you. We'll be live tomorrow morning. The bullish thing that would happen, if that is not going to happen, we're not going to turn down on a 30-minute. What if we turn up on a 2-hour and we just have a simple swing trade to the upside? That is something we need to pay attention to going forward, because if we get that simple swing trade, you are close to positive territory. If that turns up, you most likely are going to take out this high, or at least test it, and then go make a new one. And if you're doing that, that would be outside of a monthly expected move. These moves on the 2-hour, these 2-hour moves that have gone outside of the monthly expected move, and sometimes 30-minute ones, they've proven to be pretty good at finding those tops and for some kind of pullback, some kind of corrective move at that point for the end of the month. So I would be paying attention to that. So if we want the overall take here, it's, hey, if that 30-minute turns down, watch out for divergence, but that could get bad. If the 2-hour turns up, you might have a simple swing trade, and you might take out this high. Qs, we're looking at a similar thing just to get you the daily expected moves. The weekly expected moves are up on the chart. If you want the monthlies and things like that, come live tomorrow morning. We'll show you those, okay, just so you can get them. We do give out the monthly and weekly and daily expected moves for the SPY and the Qs completely free on YouTube. And if you want to join the Patreon, we give it out for all the other stocks that we cover and some more like Palantir, Google, Microsoft. We look at them every once in a while. We do give those out on Patreon as well with some trade setups like DJT showed us. Not every single trade setup is going to play out, obviously. The stock market's going to do what it wants to do, but sometimes, right, a lot of the time, these momentum trades can be good ones. So DJT proven that for us, 504.40 to the upside for the Qs. Tomorrow for the daily expected move, we do a 495.64 to the downside for the Qs tomorrow as well. We notice we're looking for a similar thing. This 2-hour just a little bit deeper for the Qs, which means a little less probable to go test the high and go make a new one. But if that's able to curl up, that would be a good thing. And I think the way that this takes out this high is if we first go make that stronger base. Okay, if we make a stronger base for the Qs, we can look into that. If the Qs come up and make a lower high while the SPY actually makes a divergence, and we see that divergence on volatility, make sure to stick around for volatility. We're going to talk about that in a bit towards the end of this video. Stick around for it because you've got to watch volatility and the SPY at the same time. 2-hour turns up, swing trade, we can see a higher move. If that's a lower high, we'll have to watch out, but that would give you a chance to test the high, go make a new one. If that goes outside of the monthly, that might be a big problem. So what we want to pay attention to tomorrow is, are we going to get an opportunity, or is this a shelf to actually take back the 5? Are we going to see something crazy to the upside, or is that daily expected move going to hold? We're going to see a simple A, B, C move, go retest that 5-day moving average. That's what this staggered line is, and then reject from that area. If we do reject from that area, you would maybe be curling down on the 30-minute MACD, and that would produce something for you. That might even produce the same thing that we saw as the Qs are seeing some good price action. If the Qs can do this, curl back down, or curl back down right away in the beginning beginning of the day, we'd be paying attention to that bottom side daily expected move, and we'll update these on you, or for you. But we do notice that we're still looking for something like this. So this is still developing. We're going to notify you every single night what it looks like and if these things are playing out, if the swing trade is playing out, or if we're going to make a stronger base. Okay, Apple, I'm a little bit worried about. Apple coming up, almost reaching the weekly expected move, first of all, so get those over on Patreon. But we do notice there is a 30-minute divergence here. We notice that's rather flat on the 30-minute for the MACD, but down for the RSI. So this could be a decent sized pullback at this point. You're still pretty damn positive, so we want to pay attention anytime that 30-minute does roll back up into positive territory. But for the most part, this can roll over a 2-hour chart. So we got to look at the 2-hour chart here. This is saying weakness, but that has not confirmed yet. Just want to make sure to clarify that. This doesn't mean it has to fall down now. It has not confirmed. We'll have to see what this does in the morning first off. The 2-hour here, if that does turn down the 2-hour, then it gets a little bit more worrisome. A lot of the time, 30-minute divergences like to turn down that 2-hour. Just a note, that 30-minute is a little bit farther away from the center line, okay? So you can just do this and then curl back up. So if this turns down and turns right back up, all good. But if it turns down, I want to treat it like it could be bad. Because if that 2 hours confirming momentum down, it's saying, hey, I might go try to test the previous low and go make a new one. And what would that do? Well, you have these lows, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low, higher high, higher high. If you come down and you break that and you make that lower high, you might be starting to make that series of lower lows. Sorry about that little blip in my brain. Little series of lower lows. And the problem with that is if you start to make those series of lower lows, you might end up not crossing this daily. But this is a bullish thing to pay attention to for Apple. If you do just cross up on a daily MACD, maybe after some little consolidation on some shorter time frames, it would say a swing trade to the upside is open for Apple. And I know we're going through this pretty quickly, but my wife's making chili. Last time it sucked, and this time she says it's going to be good. So I'm excited. Maybe. But we can see here that Tesla trying to do something good here and holding pretty well. So on the 2-hour, we still want that confirmation. Will Tesla see some kind of massive move? It can, but its weekly expected move is a little smaller than I expected, and we're seeing a big gap initially here. So if that 2-hour does curl up, it would say Tesla high, go make a new one, except that might take you out of a weekly expected move. That's why being a part of Patreon is helpful. You can see those levels. The 30-minute here is what I wanted to talk about. This briefly curled over. What did it react down to? Well, we saw a big move. It reacts down towards that 5-day moving average. And then if we can curl back up into positive territory, you might see that 2-hour move. And then just watch out for reversal signals up here for Tesla. That's what it looks like at this moment. Just to be sure you are aware, though, the 2-hour is not turned up and the 30-minute is turned down. So do not be surprised if we go fill a gap or something like that first, or see a move higher and then go fill that gap and then turn up after we find some buyers. Amazon getting a reaction up, then turning back down. Hasn't crossed over on the 30-minute. If we're going to see this continue these small moves, it might form some kind of flagging here. And then we'll watch out if that actually drops. But what I want to pay attention to is if that 30-minute gets by the center line and then curls down into negative territory and actually gives me the trade setup, right? The weakness in momentum that can give me a hint. Because if this actually gets further up, right, we see that next move up and then it fails, and maybe we get a little mini head and shoulders or something like that, but it moves up and it fails, that would get this by the center line, turn it down, and then maybe we actually do create that divergence down here. But here's the other thing, maybe we don't, right? You want to make sure to wait for confirmations on these moves, right? DJT, if you just waited for confirmation, it still was a great play. So you're waiting for confirmations on these moves overall. But we can see that the 2-hour here, if this wanted to curl up, where is it? It's in positive territory. The only problem for Amazon on this 2-hour is you're starting to go negative. You're still by the center line, so you can see a good move. But if you reject off the 5, you could just continue this negative trend because this was 2-hour divergence. You see that up at the highs. Great trade setup. Great. It played out very, very well. Amazon was one of the stocks warning us that there was weakness in the market, and that came to fruition. So I'm glad we were aware of it. The daily scale has not rolled over from it. So tomorrow's going to be a big day for Amazon. Is Amazon going to confirm more of a daily pullback, and maybe we get down to my level down here, or my second level? My first level was 200. My second level would be down here towards 194, 194.50. If this does curl over on that MACD, you do not have major reversal signals for the daily, so we'll find if there are basing out signals to help us out, and maybe Amazon ends up making another move higher on the daily scale after a further pullback. So pay attention to both directions. Make sure to trade like water. NVIDIA getting a little bit of indecision before earnings, right? We have earnings in a couple of days here after hours on Wednesday, so that's something to pay attention to, but we can notice that it did confirm a major reversal signal, okay? This is something you want to be aware of. It just gives you more and more reasons to not take some kind of random earnings play, unless you got a fun account like me, right? I have a fun account that I like to just take some fun plays with. If I'm going to play earnings, that's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to use my legit portfolio there, but we notice this is downward momentum. This is downward momentum here on the RSI and MACD at the same time. So you have to be aware that this can be some kind of bigger drop for NVIDIA, and that can curl down a weekly chart. And look at that weekly chart. It is ugly. So this is what I'm saying. Do not mess around with NVIDIA. This thing could end up going up. This thing could end up going down. Earnings is a 50-50 flip. But if you start to confirm this weekly chart, that is not going to be a good sign for NVIDIA. I wanted to look at the 2-hour real quick just to show you that the 2-hour is still by that center line. It's close enough that if it wanted to curl up, and we did hold the divergences across a little bit here, we noticed the flatness held across from these points, but we could curl up and make a divergence in the near price action. That is something I am paying attention to. I'm wondering if we are going to do that, head outside of a weekly expected move and give some kind of reversal signal. But just a quick note at the end of NVIDIA here, earnings is a 50-50 flip. Technicals can be thrown out the window. They can say one good thing and 10 bad things and the stock goes up, okay? So be very cautious with earnings. You can always see the real move first, right? See that reaction, wait for that to pull back a little bit and then see the next breakout, and then you can be in the move. All right, AMD actually did get that bounce that we were talking about, able to curl up on the 2-hour. You do have that divergence on the MACD, not on the RSI anymore at the same time. So most likely, this is going to need a stronger base to actually head back in the upward direction in the grand scheme of things. Okay, so what we're paying attention to, yes, this 2 hours is great. If that flips back down, it's bad. The 30-minute here is what I want to pay attention to. Notice I do not have any 30-minute divergence under this either, so this is not the strongest base. And where are we retesting? Well, we go up, we try to take back the 5, we lose it, and then where are we testing it now? We are testing that 5-day moving average. So notice on all these charts, we keep gravitating to the 5-day. If you want to get this on your chart, just ask tomorrow morning during the live show. I can get it to you. I'm just trying to be helpful, right? I'm having some fun with it today, but I'm just trying to be helpful out there. So if there's any indicator you need help getting on your chart, please let me know. We discuss how to get them on your chart in the course, but that's something I think everyone should be able to learn. So please ask if you want to get this on your chart. Now, what we're noticing is that 30-minute was able to go positive. So that's a good thing. It means a little less likely to take out this low, but it does not mean you can't go test that low again or take out some stops and go the other direction. What we're looking for here is a divergence or some kind of higher low from AMD. That would prove to us that this is still a good thing and that this is most likely going to take back that 5-day moving average and then start to head in the upward direction in a positive trend. So that's what I want to pay attention to. Now, AMD, if it does make some kind of uptrend, be very cautious thinking that this thing is going to go back up to all-time highs or something like that. You have confirmed monthly divergence here. So this means that over time, AMD is most likely much weaker than it is positive. That doesn't mean you can't get a reaction and go see 169 or something like that again. It's just telling me, hey, the monthly has crossed. I have divergence across the way. I have major divergence on the RSI. So the last time that happened, very bad things. And, you know, it looks like it's small bars because it's a monthly chart, but that's a 64% drop. Now you've crossed over, and from that high, what are you looking at here? As of right now, you're at 40%. So you could end up back down to that low or even cut that low because now momentum is weak in this area. Just be cautious and look for most likely reversal signals if we do actually make an upward move for AMD. Meta did break out of, a long time ago, broke out of a trend line between those highs, and we're reacting back down to that trend line. Now, notice we do not have the strong base yet, so that's the main thing I want to pay attention to for Meta. We're going to keep it simple with this one. It's not seeing the best price action. It's building liquidity, see if we keep building liquidity, see another drop, and then end up making a divergence. That's really what I want to pay attention to for Meta. If the 2-hour is going to curl up, I just want you to notice the difference between this 2-hour and the other ones we've discussed. it is much deeper into negative territory. You do have an expanding wedge that could make a big move, but the MACD, when you're this low, you're going to need a strong base in order for that to make a move like this, okay? You're probably going to need a stronger base, a bunch of liquidity in here, so it could just remain flat. We'll see what happens with it, but if the 2-hour does turn up, that says, hey, some positivity could be there, but because of the positioning of the MACD, you do have the chance that that is just going to create some kind of lower high and then end up rolling back down into negative territory. It doesn't mean we just forget about it, right? If this curls up like this, curls back down and creates a reversal signal, we will try to notify you about that, especially on Patreon if we see it and we can put it out there. That's why Patreon is such a good thing to have, weekly ranges, and we pay attention to stocks that look like they have good moves in them. If Meta makes a good reversal signal to make an upside move, we'll tell you about it. AMC, very important to understand. We saw the little divergences in here. The 2 hours curled down, and where did we react to? Well, we kept saying, hey, if this curls down, watch 437, curled down, and now we're at 437. So we're trying to get some little things in here. Are we seeing something crazy this week? No. If you want to see some kind of squeeze, you at least got to get through 496 this week. And we update this every single Sunday, so thank you so much for subscribing. Now, there was one little signal in here that I was noticing, and all it was a 15-minute divergence. Now, I do not like 15-minute charts, but notice we're paying attention to the right levels. This is what I like about price action when you're trying to find those resistances and supports. Just note, if you're making support levels and you keep violating those levels all the time, most likely it's not a good support level. Most likely it's not a good resistance level. So what do we notice? Well, we did break through that very cleanly. We react back down to it. Now we're trying to make some kind of floor. Is this going to be able to go positive, or is this some kind of little cup and handle to actually head lower? That's what I want to pay attention to. If this 15-minute can go positive, though, we can start to maybe curl up an hourly chart. That hourly is a little bit negative, but it's close enough to positive territory that, you know, it would more so be leaning towards a lower high. But if we see a good move and that 2 hour starts to curl up, that's when you can start to say, hey, test the high, go make a new one. And then you watch out for 496. The thing about GameStop is you're seeing a very, very similar signal, which we kind of expect. A lot of the time, these stocks look similar. We see a little cup, we see a little handle. Is that going to fall further down? We have lost that 5-day moving average. The key thing here is still going to be the 2 hour. The 2 hour still could be in pullback mode. You do have some little 15-minute signals saying that could bounce just like AMC, but this really looks like it's going to at least pull back down to the center line, maybe go back down to $25. But one level that I'm really paying attention to is 2350. 2350 right in this area here might become important because we have rolled over a 4-hour chart. If the daily starts to turn over, we'll talk more about it. That means you might be in a prolonged daily pullback. So what we want to see is, does the 2 hour really base out and curl up just for a simple swing trade? Just because if this is able to curl up into positive territory again, you always got a shot to take out the key level. And the key level for GME is 3104 right now. It'll be interesting to see if short sellers are beat up a little bit by DJT and if GameStop or AMC see some love, or if they get completely clamped down on. I wanted to talk about volatility. Key thing to note here, it did not curl down on the 2 hour just yet. Now that could happen in the morning. We'll see what comes from that. But for the most part, something we are looking for from volatility is the fact that, one, you could say, hey, this is maybe a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe it gets a 5th push lower, but if that 30-minute does curl up, the positioning of it is saying, hey, I could be a lower high. Okay, so we have come down a little bit too much here, and we haven't seen that pullback just yet. But if we still see this create this, right, we still see it create that, and the SPY does the opposite signal at the same time, we will be paying attention to it, and we will be talking about it a lot. But something to notice here, we have retaken the 5, and now we're going back down to retest it. So maybe we do see a reaction in volatility, and I'd be watching if this divergence sets up. If it does not confirm, then it's not there. Okay, if it does not confirm and the SPY doesn't confirm the divergence at around the same time, it is not there. That's key to understand, because you don't want to be trying to take something before it confirms unless you're good at the microstructure like I've been doing for a long time. But really, if you just take these confirmations, like wait for confirmations before making a decision, the divergence does not exist until you see that confirmation, and that's important to note. Something that we can pay attention to if volatility is really just going to take off and just continue to go in the upward direction, we're not going to make those divergences. Daily scale. If the daily scale does start to turn up, we got to see if that can go positive, but that would mean volatility is coming back on a major time frame. So the main takeaway for this video is, well, the SPY. We're still waiting for this to fully develop. We can pay attention to this tomorrow morning live, and it's great to see that DJT was doing something today, and we found those signals, and we even posted to Patreon. I think all that's awesome because, you know, the SPY, while you're waiting for it to develop, it can be hard to be patient. So it's nice that DJT gave us a nice setup there, and you know, that's printing some good money at this point. So thank you guys so much for joining this video. I really do appreciate it. We're still looking for these signals and we're going to pay attention to them with you. We will be live at the full time tomorrow morning. No power issues tomorrow. So we can pay attention to a lot of things tomorrow. Are we going to make a stronger base, or are we going to see a simple swing trade to the upside? Or are we just going to fall through the floor? All of that can be answered with just a little bit more price action. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for liking, subscribing, joining the Patreon. You guys are fantastic. If you guys want to join any of those, the links are down there in the description. The course links are down in the description as well. That sale goes away on November 31st. You can get that technical analysis course right now for just $100. Great. And if you want the swing trading course, hey, that's only going to cost you $50, and that's going up after November 31st. Hope you guys have a great night, and I wish you nothing but luck with your trades tomorrow. Peace out.